what is it about this team as the strength and power coach, this performance-based individual versus working with those normies with fitness goals that really draws and gets your chili hot?
Well, I used to, I mean, for me, like it was a means to an end, I guess. Like I started out working in the gym, and what I used to get was like guys like Owen and other athletes just drip in over the year. And that used to just almost just top me up. So like, I could go to work every day and be like, all right, like I've got this block of, general population. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a week with Owen or 2 weeks with these other guys, and I used to get drip fed to some of the players from the Roosters, from the coach over the years too. He'd say, like, can you look after this guy for me for 3 or 4 weeks? Mm-hmm. So dealing with athletes was just, and specifically, like I was spoilt when I first worked with Owen, because Owen's like no other athlete you'll ever work with, because, he's driven, he owns everything that he does. And he doesn't just let it happen. He'll ask why, he'll ask how, why is this good for me? Why is this going to make me better? And then you only have to tell him once, which is, that's a dream as a coach, to explain something once and then someone to have the knowledge and the forward thinking to just use it and go with it. And I guess when I'd sort of been in the gym for a little while, and then I was about to take a long hiatus because I was getting ready to shoot myself in the head. It was just, you're right, because you get to the point you're like, fuck, like, why are you fat? Well, because you're eating too much. Like it's you've got hand to mouth problems, and you're putting your hand in your mouth too fucking often. It's got nothing to do with the training. It's got all to do with you. So, and there was no perspective or purpose there. And then Trent, who's the head coach of the Roosters, just rang up one day and just said, look, we'd love you to come on as the head of strength and power. And I think I didn't even ask about like how much or what it was going to do. I just said, yep, it's done. Like, I'll start whatever. Because in a team, it's like every single day you've got, like 30 something players to take care of, specific needs. And like, if you don't take care of them properly, if you don't give them the right dosage of what they need, then you'll see that outcome play on Saturday or Sunday or Friday night. You'll see the direct result of your training, good or bad. So you're held responsible every single day, every single week. And the outcome is there for you to see. Now, sometimes it's out of your hands. Sometimes you get beaten by a better team. But then you had to pick up the pieces as well. Like you've got to look at the game and think like, well, were they fast enough? Were they strong enough? Was there something that was missing? What was their footwork like? Could they display their athleticism as much as they needed to? Or haven't I touched on the tools enough that that these guys can do that? And then you end up, look at rehab as well. You end up sort of cultivating these awesome relationships with these players, and you see them go through like these ebbs and flows of their careers. And, we've got a bunch of guys on rehab at the moment, and, they go through the down patch where they're like, fuck, my career's over. And then they see them on the upside when they're like, I'm coming back, I feel better. It's the most rewarding thing I've done. I love sport. I think it's, keeps me humble. It keeps me focused. It keeps me responsible for everything I do. And it's one of those things that I don't take for granted, and I never will. Like, I'll walk in there because I know I'm responsible for someone's livelihood. And I want the team to win. Like, I hate losing as much as anyone else. So to me, it's like weekly, it's a mental ride as well. Sport's one of those things where it's, and Owen could attest to that. Like, it's nice being on a team that wins. That's really helpful. And when you're on a team that's like losing, everyone's just slowly pointing the fingers at someone else and saying, It's crazy.
That strength coach is a unique perspective and opportunity, because you get to spend so much more time with the sport coaches, and they got their individual position coach for their sport. At least this is how most American sports work. But you got your individual position coach, then you got your coordinator, and then you got your head coach. And so they get only so much time with each one of those. And then in crunch time and stress time, they just become a name and a direction and an arrow. But then as a strength coach, I'm spending time. I'm seeing them fail in the squat rack. I'm giving them a direction, a cue, or perspective to say, hey, man, what were you thinking in there? What happened? Why don't you try this? And you get to the opportunity to really develop and cultivate this relationship. I appreciate any sport coach that really involves themselves on the strength side of things, even just showing up for the warm-ups and talking to the players during the warm-ups, or coming and observing the sprint sessions and saying, hey, why are we doing this? What's up with this? How's he feeling today? Or how are they feeling today? And then, developing a relationship with the sport coach to keep their finger on the pulse. So it's cool to see that this is the experience you found yourself in, Kev, and that the sport coaches value you as a person and entrusting you with their team's performance.
Yeah, and you've got to remember that it's football. As much as as a coach, you think as a strength coach, you think like strength, power, speed. Like I want that. Like that's all I want. I want them fucking 5 days a week. I don't want anyone else touching them. I don't want long distance running because you're gonna. I don't want the conditioning coach to ruin all my good stuff. But it's football. So the biggest thing in the world is like, hey, skill sets. They've got to be able to catch, pass, run, tries. Like it doesn't really matter in the end. So I've got to make sure that the footy coaches have got everything they need. And I'm asking like, hey, what do you see? What do you see out there that they're not like, what do you think they need more of? Like it might be defensive. It might be, they need to tackle better, or their defensive footwork isn't there. So, all right, well then what can I do in the gym to help with that? Like I'll try to help solve some problems, even just by a little bit. But I like in the end, we have a saying, and it's don't fuck with the football. That's our saying. So it means like it's cool to do everything you can to support it, but don't get in the way of what our footy is about. And that's what we're about.